Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Global Stewardship Podcast. This podcast highlights land keepers around the globe who are caring for the earth and stewarding land, food, community in impactful ways. And I believe our guest today is one of the very best examples out there. Katie Steere is one of the farmers at Wild Earth Farm in Vermont. And if there's anybody I could host to convince you that farming can truly heal the planet, I think it's her. I know her story will inspire you, and I'm so honored that she's here today to share her insights with conscious consumers and farmers. First of all, your vegan to land steward story is beyond impactful. I think about you all the time and just think about how drastic your perspective change was. Could you just enlighten listeners about your journey? You were a vegan banker, right?
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
now you're living and working full time on the land.
yes. Yeah. So in college, I read a book and I won't even say the name of it because I don't want anyone to know about this book. But the messaging of the book was basically if you want to be skinny and cool and a good person, you should be a vegan.
Mhm.
And if you're not a vegan, you're a terrible person. And I was a freshman in college at the time, and I had just moved away from home for the first time. So I was into a city, and I grew up on a farm. So I was just kind of, I think, looking for a place to belong there at college.
Mhm.
And I decided to become a vegan. And like most people, when I just switched cold turkey. So I experienced a lot of cleansing. So I really did feel really good for the first couple of months.
Right.
And after that, it was just almost 5 years of I was just on my pedestal, and it sort of just gave me an identity, I think, at that young time in my life. And yeah, by the end of the 5 years, I'm still recovering from tooth problems a decade after starting to eat meat again.
Wow.
I was depressed, my spine was degenerating, my hair was falling out. My hairdresser that I had had my whole life thought that I had cancer
Oh
because,
gosh. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember you saying that. Yeah.
yeah. So then fast forward, I was living in California towards the end, and I went to a doctor for the first time, and he did a bunch of blood tests. And he basically said, look, you need to start eating meat again, or you're going to be in really big trouble. And so I started eating chicken breast from Whole Foods, which looking back, I'm like, that's probably the one of the worst choices I could have made for
It's
clean,
funny.
what I thought was clean meat. But yeah, and that sort of led me to joining a vegetable CSA and then volunteering on a vegetable farm and then just realizing in the Bay Area how disconnected I was from everything. And then I was only consuming and not producing anything, and it just didn't feel good. So I started thinking about my life and what I wanted to do, and I realized that everything I cared about centered around food and health and like the giant food corporations that I think are doing really big damage to the health of our country in so many ways.
Hmm.
And that all led me to farming.
Wow. Yeah, I have heard so many stories of people who switched to a vegan or vegetarian diet and immediately started feeling so good. And probably just because it was just a focus on whole foods and fresher foods. And so people think that like that's where the drastic change comes from. But then slowly over time, people start feeling really, really, really bad. And I've never been formally vegan or vegetarian at any point in my life, but I definitely was like super vegetable heavy and just had been told that that was the best diet for me. And as soon as I started like implementing steak into my diet and just more meat, my hair has grown so long and come back so thick, and my cavity problem has basically healed itself. So I can resonate with that, even though I obviously haven't had the same journey that you have. Could you share with people how you ended up in Vermont? That whole story. You were in Rhode Island, right?
Yeah, I was in Rhode Island. I actually grew up on a farm in Rhode Island that's been in my family for 7 generations. And it went out of business in the 70s before I was born. It was a dairy farm, and it just didn't have a plan for the future.
Mhm.
And I would spend a lot of time living in California worrying about it. And so, one of the big reasons that I also started farming was because I wanted to revive my family's farm. And I had read a bunch of Joel Salatin's books, and the way he talked about his family's farm was how I felt about my family's farm.
Hmm.
So I ended up interning at Polyface, and that was such, I mean, they really throw you in there.
Yeah.
I feel like if I had interned anywhere else, I wouldn't have been ready to start my own farm. But I arrived home and it was like, okay, I'm gonna get 200 laying hens and 15
Yeah.
pigs and 20 cows, and that feels so much smaller than everything that we were doing at Polyface.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna start small.
Yeah. And meanwhile, people were like, "What? You're insane. I can't believe
Yeah.
you're doing this."
Yeah, I think
Um,
I started with like 30 meat chickens.
yeah.
That's funny.
Um, and it just didn't work out with my family. That's a whole nother story, but basically 4 years into farming there, the farm went to my brother,
Hmm.
who's not a farmer. And that
Yes.
was a really painful experience. And then I moved to leased land and I farmed there for 2 years. And at that point, I mean, my business had grown to almost $200,000 in sales, and I was basically doing it all by myself still.
Right.
And so I was so burned out. Like my nervous system was completely fried and I was exhausted. And I had just met my now husband and through a series of events decided, okay, I need to quit farming for now because I was on two properties at that point and I was just building fences on other people's land and improving like
Yeah.
everything I earned from the farm went back into other people's land. So I
Right.
felt like I had just like nothing to show for all the work that I was doing. And the universe basically said no. The day the day after I told my landlords I wasn't coming back the next year, we found this farm in Vermont, even though we weren't really looking, and it had everything on our someday farm dream list.
Right.
And the owners were taking applications and interviewing people, and we actually paid $50,000 less than it was appraised for in 2021, which is just completely unheard of. They had gotten multiple cash offers for hundreds of thousands of dollars more than
Yeah.
they listed it for. So yeah, 5 months after Ben and I's first date, we committed to buying this farm in Vermont.
I met you right in the midst of that story. And you were kind of talking about like it seems like people are putting in more money than we are, but I wrote them a really nice letter.
Yeah.
And that was so inspiring. I've actually been thinking about you a lot lately because we've been down a very similar path where I've only been on borrowed and leased land, a lot of it being my family's property. And about a year ago, basically told us that my stepbrother was going to move in, who doesn't farm. And I just had like, I mean, months of panic attacks about it, basically. Just so confused because I felt like God was really telling me that this was the place that I was going to farm forever somehow. And
Oh, I have
just,
chills when
it
you
was
say
like going,
that.
it was just such a rocky time. And I felt so confused because I felt so called to be here. And long story short, we've worked it out where we've basically convinced my sibling that he doesn't want the responsibility of this land. So we're right now trying to agree on buying it somehow. But I just was constantly looking back at your story thinking like, well, if this doesn't work out, something's going to fall into place. Like this is what
Oh,
I'm meant to do. So obviously that story is still developing, but yeah, I just been thinking about you a lot in that whole story and just how beautiful it is that you guys have ended up where you have and have this amazing piece of property that I'm so excited to be visiting this year and we'll have to share pictures with everyone. But just watching your whole story unfold and now seeing you just absolutely thriving in this place that you can call your own is really exciting. Coming from knowing you before you had that opportunity is really cool.
thank you. Yeah, it's been yeah, we moved here and like not only is our farm amazing, but it's like we both got the families we never really had here. Like
Yeah.
all these people that would be our parents' age have sort of just adopted us, and we have this amazing community where everyone really takes care of each other. And so, yeah, I do really feel like it was a gift from the universe or God, like
Hmm.
just brought us here for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted to talk about that. Your stories of the community that you have in Vermont is so inspirational. It just pushes me to foster deeper connections and interpersonal relationships where I live. I mean, truly, I actually think that looking to what you've experienced there is the only reason I do what I do in my community here. So I would just love for you to share what you've fallen in love with up there and just how you're able to thrive in that farm-centered community.
Yeah, I can give you one really special example. This past weekend, we had our baby shower, and instead of having a baby shower, we had a farm nesting work party. And so we had about 35 people here and did 3 hours of work together
Wow.
to get the farm ready for our baby. Well, I guess to get the farm ready for us to have
Yes.
time to spend with our baby when the baby is born. And the whole morning, I just kept looking around, and I'd say like 25 of the people are people that we've met since we moved here just in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And we like got a new shed sided. Somebody trimmed windows inside our yurt. We have a yurt that we Airbnb, our yurt bathroom building. Somebody drywalled a wall in our house.
Oh,
Everyone
wow.
weeded our garden into shape. Like trash piles that were here when we moved got picked up and put in the dumpster. And
Mhm.
it was, and the thing is that when everyone left, they hugged me and said, I'm gonna cry. Thank you so much for including me in this event.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So amazing.
Like, thank me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh
But
my
I
gosh.
feel like this place, this kind of town where we live, it lets people be a part of something that
Mhm.
doesn't really exist in many places.
Yeah.
Like when we moved up here, we got invited to a party before we even moved. And then that person was at our house the next day helping with his tractor and post pounder, helping us build fences. And there are people I can and have called at 6 a.m. to say, my dairy cow has milk fever and she's falling over. And, 5 minutes later, he's there with an IV and saving my
Wow.
cow for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's almost like now, when I moved here, I felt so bad asking for help. But now that we are also asked for help,
Hmm.
nothing makes me feel like I belong here more than when somebody calls us and asks for help.
Yeah.
And
Really special.
yeah, one of our neighbors, he calls it neighboring because
Mhm.
it's a verb. It's like it's not something that you can just come and, there's an amazing community and you're in it. You really have to participate.
Yeah.
And sometimes that
Oh my
means,
goodness. Yeah.
yeah, like going to things when you're too tired or
Yes, definitely.
giving support when you don't really feel like it. And because yeah, there's sort of this, I don't know, culture online that's like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And I think boundaries are super important. And also, they can isolate you if you go too far with them.
Yeah. Not
Um,
even just boundaries. I see just so many people like in our local moms groups and stuff. Everybody's like, I'm so lonely. I have no friends. And people always ask, like, when was the last time you got out and really made, like, got comfortable being uncomfortable at an
yeah,
event or something? And I'm so guilty of that because I'm super introverted. But it's, you can only reap the reward somehow. And you
yeah,
have to put in that
yeah.
legwork.
When we first moved here, we had this amazing rhubarb patch, and I have this delicious rhubarb cake recipe, and I just started making rhubarb cakes and bringing them to our neighbors' houses and
Yeah.
getting to know them.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful. And it's almost like a lost art form in so many places.
totally.
It's how
Yeah,
people lived for thousands of years.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, you can almost sense the hunger for it
Hmm.
if you just sit with it for a while, like on a planetary and societal level.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People are deeply craving that community and just don't know how to start that.
Bake a cake.
Bake a cake.
Seriously.
Yes. I've seen some videos of you guys joining. It literally looks like a kumbaya circle, but playing music. And I mean, it
Yeah.
just seems like you are always doing things in your community. Maybe not always, but just things that people don't experience anymore and just looks so beautiful.
Yeah, we actually are always doing things like that.
Oh,
And
good.
it's so special. And yeah, I very often, I don't know, once a week have moments where I just think about I'll be sitting at an event like that, just like listening to music with everyone around and there's twinkly lights and I think back to like the moment I found out that my brother got the farm and just that rock bottom of my life
Hmm.
where I was so sad and lonely and just how amazing it is that I'm experiencing the magic in that moment.
That's so exciting for you. And it's so clear that you were meant to be exactly where you are now. You really
Totally.
had to persevere through that journey. Like, wow, so,
Yeah.
so cool.
It's like your suffering becomes your medicine if you let it. Always, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. A lot of this leads me into people would call it slow living, but you recently got horses. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and kind of your stewardship philosophy around slowness?
So maybe like a year and a half ago, I was taking a poetry class, and my poetry teacher was talking about unlimited abundance and how when
Mm.
she goes on vacation, she doesn't even pack a suitcase. She just buys everything she needs there. And something about that just didn't really sit right with me because I want to believe in unlimited abundance. And the way she was talking about it was in like a very kind of a way that's really exploits the earth and takes
Yeah,
too many resources.
right. Way
And
overconsumption.
yeah. So I was spending a lot of time thinking about that. And it was like this little switch in my head
Hmm.
flipped. And I was like, oh, the sheep are always growing wool from grass. And the
Yeah.
earth is always giving us grass during the growing season. Like it just grows and grows and grows. And the animals have to eat it. And it just keeps growing. And the same with sunlight. And so I started thinking about, well, what does the earth want to give us versus what can we take from the earth?
Hmm. That's so fascinating.
Yeah. And so on our farm, we live in Vermont where the grass just only 6 months of the year, but it just grows like crazy. And so we turn that into beef and lamb and wool, and which then can also be turned into our wool dish sponges and tallow balm and soap and just
Mhm.
so many useful things that could replace plastic. And then that led me further into if humans want to be living for thousands of more years, can we really be driving these diesel tractors that only maybe, the old ones last for a long time, but I highly doubt any tractors that are built today are going to be around in 80 years.
Oh yeah, no way. We were just talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
They're
And
now like
80,
people are making things now to need a replacement as soon as possible.
yeah. And
Yes.
then if you think about generations of humans, like 80 years is such a short time period in the
Mhm.
history of the earth. So we're kind of like, okay, well, what is really sustainable on a farm? And also, we're working too much, like in the way our farm is currently set up. So
Right.
we've been exploring what is really sustainable financially. I kind of hate the word environment, but like in terms of the earth
Hmm.
and quality of life for people raising food. And that led me to be curious about horses. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm also a lifelong horse girl. So, because they can reproduce on their own, they can harvest their own food in the summer with their mouths, but they can also harvest their winter food with the machines that they pull. Um,
Yeah.
and I went to a conference in the fall, and The way I heard these old timer farmers talking about working with horses was amazing. Like these tough, 70-year-old guys, just like, yeah, once I get out there with the horses, it's like nothing else exists. And it's the most special thing in the world. And
That sounds beautiful.
yeah, and these things are the things that make life magical.
Hmm.
And I think they're really important. And I think that
Yeah.
we've lost so much in the name of convenience. Like
Hmm.
it has robbed us of almost everything special and sacred in our lives.
Yeah.
So we, over the winter, I just kept having this feeling like horses are coming to our farm this year. And I didn't know how because a good team of horses is, somewhere between 20 and $30,000.
Right.
And we're having a baby in in a few weeks. But I just kept saying it to everyone. I think we're getting horses this year and I don't know how. And then I got a message on Facebook and there's this couple nearby to us who has been logging and sugaring with these horses for like a decade.
Wow.
And they're in their late 60s and they have grandkids across the country. And they're not ready to get rid of the horses, but they wanted to have
Mm.
the summer to visit their grandkids and focus on their health and slow down a little.
Wow.
And so not only are we borrowing these horses for the summer and just paying for their expenses, Bob, the owner, is mentoring us with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
So this summer, the only goal is to basically learn how to work with draft horses. I've been hand driving them around.
Oh, magical.
Yeah, but eventually, I really want to, I just want to explore, is it possible to work with horses and have a viable farm?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. What you said
Yeah.
something about how like convenience has kind of wrecked us. And in a lot of ways, I look around and I think it's really not super convenient because a lot of the things that we've put in place that are quote unquote convenient are causing like extreme degradation. And I mean, I was just talking with somebody the other day about how expensive their synthetic fertilizers are that they're having to use and thinking, you think you traded something for convenience, but now you're having to do all of this and pay all this extra money, like because you've broken the natural systems. So how convenient is it really? And we're only in like the first or second generation of these practices. So long term, it's not going to be convenient even in the slightest.
No, and I personally don't know a single person who has ever said, yeah, I just have too much time. Like I'm just relaxing so much that I have too much time, and convenience has only made our lives more hectic, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think farm life is one of the most amazing places to see beauty. Just having the ability to be outdoors all day, watching just the natural world unfold in front of you is such a blessing in this day and age when a lot of people are sitting indoors all day. I feel so beyond fortunate that I'm outside every day and I feel for my husband who's inside and it's such a disconnect to where he's supposed to be as a human. His circadian rhythm is totally jacked. He even when he does work out, he has to constantly, we were just talking yesterday, he's having to constantly battle because then he sits in an office chair all day. I feel like it is really the perfect place to see beauty at its peak. And so I'm loving that you are embracing that and doing what you can do with these draft horses to savor all of that. And it's just really cool to see. I'm super excited to watch that journey too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how our society has placed so much value on taking people away from manual labor jobs and jobs that are outside and putting people in offices and labeled those jobs as important.
Hmm.
And now people go to gyms now and they have to escape to go hiking and camping and everything. And it's like we've just built this way of living that doesn't work at all. And now
Hmm.
there's like a whole nother industry that's trying to make this system work, but it really isn't.
Definitely. That's super sad. So I know a lot of farmers who are listening are going to think that that slow way of life, the draft horses, are totally a utopian dream, unrealistic for global food production. And I'm sure there's some fair arguments there, but what would you say to that?
I mean, I would say to that our current model of food production is killing all life on Earth. And if we want to be around for the next couple thousand years, we need to explore how we can live well on this earth going forward.
Hmm.
And I think that, one farm isn't supposed to produce the food for the whole world.
Right.
And I think that small farms in most of the world are what feeds the world. And
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't know. I don't personally have all of the answers, but I do know that the current paradigm isn't working, and I want to explore what will work.
definitely.
And I also
I,
want to have fun and enjoy my life
yes.
because I think that's really important.
Totally true. It's one of the most heartbreaking things is to hear farmers who just dread their work or it's so routine. And I pretty soon will have a guy on the podcast who was farming in Australia, farming on some of the largest plots of land in the world. And he was just sitting in the tractor feeling so much disconnection. Like I'm just viewing it all from this air conditioned vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's certainly, I've experienced just the way that it's brought joy to my life. And it's an exhilarating thing to be in rhythm with nature. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll say even on our small scale, I realized that when we switched from small square bales to round bales,
Hmm.
and we're clipping the pastures once a year after the cows are grazing. I hate being in a tractor, and
Me
like
too.
I wasn't finding enjoyment feeding the cows anymore. Like feeding small square bales is such a it's amazing. It smells good and
Yeah,
flakes are so satisfying when they break off and like the rustle the hay makes when you throw it onto the ground and the way the cows just sort of like stick their nose in it and fluff it out.
right.
Um,
That's beautiful.
yeah, like even on that very small level, I felt like I was losing some of the things that made farming really special for me. Yeah, I want to go back and find those things again.
Yeah. You're saying that small farms feed the world, and that is so true. It's such a narrative in a lot of agricultural spaces that farmers have to feed the world. And by that, they mean like large scale industrialized farmers. But for the most part, in many continents like Asia, over 80% of the food comes from small farms. And the question is not really who feeds the world, but like what are they producing for the world? Um, because in the US, the biggest commodity crops like corn and soy, that's over 90% of that isn't even going to humans, like for human
Right.
consumption directly. So that's a huge, huge thing. If you define feeding the world by calories, like as in ultra processed food calories, then yeah, maybe farmers in the US or I know Brazil, they have so much deforestation, so they have huge monocrops now. Like maybe countries like that are feeding, quote unquote, feeding the world in calories. But if you define it by nutritional diversity and resilience, and whole foods, it's small farms.
I sometimes I wonder about like how long can our systems go on like this, with health declining and healthcare costs rising. And in Vermont, we're reaching the breaking point. People can't afford their property taxes because of school health insurance, and health
That's crazy.
insurance premiums are rising by double digits every year. And so it's like, well, yeah, these farms are creating huge amounts of calories and they're maybe contributing to soon the collapse of the systems that are keeping our
Mhm.
country running. So
Yeah,
there's
for
so many
sure.
variables that need to be taken into account, not just like how many
Yeah.
acres of crops is one farm producing.
Yeah, somebody online recommended a book, and this is similar to your, I'm not going to name the book because I don't want anybody to read this book, but I mean, she's an agricultural influencer and promoted this book about how basically, bottom line is how we do need these giant, large scale farms to feed the world. And I read through the whole book because that's what I do. I went to college for political science. I believe in both sides of the story. That's
Hmm.
just how I am. And so I put myself through a lot of the things. And something that I really noticed about this book in particular was that there were like no statistics, no real factual evidence proofs. It was a lot of opinion about how organic farming isn't sustainable long term and how regenerative farming won't feed the world. And it was like all these big statements, but none of them were really backed up by anything other than kind of like salty opinions.
Hmm.
And it really kind of broke my heart because I can't imagine how many hundreds, if not thousands of people like listened to this or bought the book and read it like I did and don't know differently and just believe exactly what they read. And I think that these mindsets are what's really keeping us stuck and in these detrimental systems that there's obviously we couldn't just cut cold turkey right now,
Right.
um, but if we're ever going to explore other opportunities and try to steward the land better and nourish the planet, we're going to have to ask these questions. And certainly books like that that shut down any question asking aren't going to work. And that's the whole point of this podcast is to have people on with different opinions and viewpoints and just really kind of try to find and align on what really will serve the planet right in the long run.
Totally. And I feel like maintaining curiosity is so important.
Hmm. Absolutely. A lot of your social media posts really catch my eye. The different things that you write about in such a poetic way. Like just the other day, you wrote about grass as solar panels. Can you give us some examples of ways that the way we're tending to the earth really can benefit the planet and the environment and kind of what you're seeing on your property and how that journey's been for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So just recently in the past year or so, even a lot of the things that I was hearing at regenerative agriculture conferences started to feel a little exploitative to me.
Hmm.
It's just become all about how many pounds of forage you can get off of each acre. And I have started to think about everything in terms of cycles. Like everything in nature is a cycle,
Yeah.
from the moon cycle to the seasons, just like every single thing is a circle that completes.
Yes.
And we have a lot of, I guess our farm must be an ideal spot for a solar farm because very often we get letters or phone calls from companies asking if we would consider putting solar panels in our fields. And I'll be honest, it's like I forget the exact number, but it's like ten to $15,000 an acre a year for a lease that they're offering. So I
Yeah.
totally understand how people can't say no to that.
Hmm.
Our farm is preserved, so we can't say yes, but I don't tell them that. I'm just like, our farm is already full of solar panels. Like every single green thing that grows on our farm is a solar panel, and it's a self-perpetuating system.
Yeah.
And I really feel like as a, just as a society, that we should be asking, how can we create the products that we need to live from these perennial biological systems?
Hmm.
Because we are the only species on Earth that takes things out of circles. Like the way that we create products and then put them in the landfill. Like the landfill is a dead end. It keeps the circle
Yeah.
from being completed.
Right.
I remember when I was I I posted a video of like fertilizing my garden with my skim milk left over from making butter for my cow.
Hmm.
And so many people got offended and they were like, that's such a waste. And I feel like that is a symptom of not living in circles in our society. Like
Yeah.
literally the only waste is when the circle doesn't get completed, when something ends up in the landfill or it can't be turned back into soil.
Yes,
Um, yeah.
definitely.
So yeah, that is how we have started thinking about our farm. Like, what can we produce here in a perennial biological system that the earth wants to give us and could keep giving us for thousands of years? Like,
Yeah.
our sheep flock could be around 2,000 years from now if the next however many generations of people decided to keep them here versus solar panels only last 25 years. So
Yeah.
it's like that's about 100 sets of solar panels that would need to be mined from the earth.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
it's crazy that, and I've been watching that whole story unfold with so much farmland being taken over by solar, and it's really fascinating because if they really cared about the environment, they'd be putting them over highways or places like that, over parking garages. And of course, there's way more steps that go into that. And they just don't want to have to deal with city municipality rules and
Mhm.
contracting. So it's just much easier to just come in and pay a farmer and just plop them down. But that right there just shows me clear as day that the motivation is not quite what they say it is, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I feel like many humans think about things in terms of our own lifetime. So it's like, oh, solar panels last for 25 or 30 years. That might feel like a long time.
Hmm.
But really, I mean, just the amount of trash that would be produced in the next 2,000 years by
Yeah,
continuously replacing 10 acres of solar panels is so
definitely.
much trash. Like, our Earth cannot produce enough minerals for us to keep consuming energy the way that we are with solar panels. So
For sure.
yeah, I want to know, where can we produce energy from perennial biological systems? Like,
Beautiful.
we burn beeswax candles at night instead of having lights on, mostly just because it's really nice,
Oh
but
yeah.
also
Mhm.
like there's so many things, like our wool sponges, people use enough plastic sponges in the US to fill the Empire State Building every single year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our wool sponges
Where
are
do they
literally,
go?
yeah, they're made from grass. And when I always tell people, like, don't throw them in the trash when you're done with them, just put them outside somewhere so that they can
Mhm.
return to the earth.
Yeah. So many people don't even realize where trash goes. It's just like out of sight, out of mind, and they don't realize that these landfills, it's not a normal environment. Like so things can't even decompose like they should. So
Exactly.
those sponges that are made of plastic that theoretically should take like 200 years to biodegrade, like in a landfill in a stagnant environment, they might take way more than 200 years to
Yeah.
biodegrade. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just stashing it all together. I don't know if you've seen the documentary. It's called Buy Now, like BUY now. It'll definitely rock your day. So I wouldn't watch it anytime soon, but like yeah, it definitely for listeners. I think it was on Netflix, but it just shows where all the trash is going
Mm,
and specifically with technology, like that there's just pits and pits of old iPhones and laptops and
oh,
everything else in places all over the world. And it's just getting shipped out of the United States predominantly. It's like all of our overconsumption is just being shipped off to other countries and like
yeah.
beaches in Ghana that have mountains that
Oh.
look like sand dunes. They're mountains of clothes. And so, yeah, it's really crazy. And I think of that every time I think about the solar panel problem, big
Hmm.
time.
Totally.
Do you have any other insights for us as far as how farming can nourish the planet?
Just as a society, we're living so far from how we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
and we're disconnected from each other and from the sacred, like from the things that really make life special. And that is what is causing us to overconsume so much because we're trying to fill a hole in us that isn't, that's like gaping right
Right.
now. And something that's really important to me is connecting people to this way of life. Like, we had a young man from Brooklyn come stay with us 2 years ago in our yurt, and he had taken the train, and it rained every single day. And he had a bike, and he didn't realize there was like a 900-foot hill from the train station to our house.
Oh, wow.
And so he couldn't go anywhere. And so we sort of just like brought him along with us with our week, and he helped our friends build a fence, and he came to one of the magical potlucks with music.
Hmm.
And he was at our baby shower this past weekend helping us.
Oh, wow.
And
So cool.
he was like that trip completely changed my life
I'm sure it
and
did.
showed me what was possible. So it's like the way that we farm, it heals this land that we're on. The animals that live here are happier, and the energy that goes into the meat is better, and it nourishes people differently.
Hmm.
I always say if you're washing your dishes with a wool sponge, like you're holding the energy of this place in that sponge.
Right.
So it's this whole cascade of things. Like the food is
Mhm.
healthier, the land is healthier, people can come visit here, and it changes something deep inside of them. And
Yeah.
so I just want to keep, yeah, connecting people to this way of life. And because it really is possible to
Hmm.
live this way and slow down and be more connected
Yeah,
to
it
the
is.
earth. And it's sort of like the only way, in my opinion. We introduced some people to the horses over the weekend, and just being near those, they're huge. They weigh over 1,800 pounds each.
Wow.
Yeah, they're jet
Massive
black
animals.
and they're gentle, and people were just in awe of them.
Yeah.
And so it's all about connecting to everything. I think
Hmm.
that is how we can heal the planet with farming.
I love that. It reminds me of something else, kind of going back to your story coming from a vegan perspective. You wrote a blog years ago about how the vegan diet is actually super detrimental to animals and like it cuts that connection. Um, like what did you believe about meat eaters when you were a vegan? Like what kind of
Mm,
worldview and stereotypes were you thinking? What part of the conversation are many vegans missing?
yeah. I always say now that veganism is the first step towards a truly ethical diet, and I wish it was a step that everyone skipped because it's so bad for you. But
Yeah.
when I was a vegan, I can, thinking back to it, I can literally recall the feeling in my body. Like, I truly thought that people who ate meat couldn't love animals.
Hmm.
And I remember just feeling completely sort of like shocked. Like, how can you say you love animals and eat meat? And
Hmm.
that they were sort of like morally missing something. Like,
Hmm.
the way to have a healthy planet and not kill animals, all you have to do is eat different. All you have to do is like go to the grocery store
Yeah.
and buy these different foods. It's so easy. And then that really switched for me when I started interning at Polyface. There was this one day right after dinner, and I was sitting outside overlooking the pastures. And I thought, if cows are so bad for the environment, why is there so much life here?
Yeah.
And the cows created that life.
Hmm.
And it wasn't a switch that happened easily. It took me probably like 4 years into running my own farm to really believe that ruminant animals on pasture are the best food system that exists.
Yeah, they really
Um,
are.
yeah, because even if you think of, like, I'm thinking of my vegetable garden
Hmm.
outside, which I love, and I love my vegetables, but there's like all these pests that
Hmm.
are that can completely just like I'm wondering if it's a system that's really healthy, then why is it so vulnerable to
Yeah, why is it
pests and
so
disease?
hard and unnatural feeling?
Yeah,
I think
versus
that every day
yeah,
as a vegetable grower.
versus the cows in the pasture, it's such a healthy system all on its
Mhm.
own.
Yeah, when it's done right, it is kind of the only thing I've seen that revives soil and life so, so fast.
Yeah,
And even with vegetable farming, that's what I do. The fields, none of the crops that we have are crops that existed thousands of years ago. They're not native plants usually.
right.
So there's just a lot of elements of it that this is good. And certainly, I mean, I have a no spray market garden style farm. Like this
Yeah.
is not damaging the planet. This is
No.
great. The birds and the bees love it. But it definitely doesn't compare to the superpowers that ruminant animals have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally. So yeah, so going back to like tofu, for example, tofu is made from soy. Soy is a monocrop that cannot be grown without herbicides or pesticides. Even if it's certified organic, they are still spraying stuff on that crop that is
Mhm.
meant to
Yeah.
kill plants and to kill animals, such as bugs.
Yeah.
Um, and then those things wash into our water and they wash into our oceans. I mean, there are just massive dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico that are created from plant-based foods. And
Hmm.
not like we talked about earlier, not most of those plant-based foods are, being grown for things other than human consumption. But I would say that it's hard in our modern society to accept that all life comes from death and that everything is a circle and that eating grass-fed beef, it does kill less things than eating tofu. And
Yeah.
not only does it kill less things, but it promotes more life.
Right. Wow. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think about the little critters in the field that just get absolutely like pummeled by heavy machinery and
Yeah.
not even to mention the sprays and everything. That is such a huge piece of the conversation that it's cognitive dissonance almost. Like people just don't want to
Yeah.
think about that. Like they're
Totally.
smaller animals, so they don't matter as
Yeah.
much.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
when pollinators are the backbone of our food system,
Yeah. Yeah, we actually, the University of Vermont is doing a pollinator study this year, and our farm is one of the locations.
that is so exciting.
Yeah, and they just came to do a checkup on the little bee nests that they placed. And Ben
Wow.
said that he was so thrilled when he was here because there are so many species of bees in the nests and also so many different kinds of butterflies. And he couldn't even believe how many kinds of birds he heard while he was here. And
Wow.
it's like, not only can these farms be farms and produce food, but they are also wildlife sanctuaries and
Mhm.
endangered species. Like we have bobolinks in our
Wow.
fields, and we don't mow those fields during the
Hmm.
summer because we want them to have their habitat. And so I almost feel like it's going from what's the least amount of harm I can do in the food that I eat. You can change that to like, what's the most amount of good that I can do?
Hmm. Beautifully, beautifully said. Really amazing. We'll start wrapping it up, but you're gonna be a mom. Well, you're already a mom, but you're gonna
Yeah.
be a mom with a baby on the outside here in a few short weeks. What are your thoughts about all of that and your mindset on motherhood going into it?
Wow. Pregnancy has really been a portal. I heard a concept that how we treat the earth, how we treat women is how we treat the earth, because the
Mm.
earth is our, like, Mother Earth is our great mother. So pregnancy has been so eye-opening in just like how much women aren't respected and nourished. And I feel like I've been doing a lot of re reclaiming and learning how I am worthy of tender love and care as a woman and a pregnant woman. I actually never wanted to be a mom before I started farming. We had a few little kids at the baby shower, and one of their moms sent me a picture of her son with this whole farm setup that he had done since he got home. And she was like, all Carter has been doing is playing Katie and Ben's farm for the last 24 hours.
Oh,
And I'm
sweet.
really, yeah, I'm just excited to hopefully raise a human who finds wonder in the natural world
Mhm.
and loves it and wants to protect it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I had a very similar experience. I never wanted to be a mom until right before having a baby. And it is so magical. So I'm super excited for you and excited to visit in the fall and share
Yeah.
more about what you guys are doing on your beautiful piece of land. And you'll get to meet my little guy too.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited and very, very grateful. And just so grateful that you took time out of your day today. I know you've been so busy and I really appreciate it. I know that this is going to really transform people's mindsets about this stuff. I think you and I might take it for granted a little bit, and certainly we try not to, but this is just the way that we believe and it's our worldview. It's how we see the world. But for so many people, especially trapped in different systems of thinking and different farming systems, some of this stuff is revolutionary.
Yeah, totally.
And probably sounds so wacky because I'm sure that I would have thought so 5 years ago. But
Definitely.
here I am. And once you experience it, it starts to all fit into place. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just excited to see what people think and open up this conversation more.
Thanks, Hannah. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Bye, Hannah.
Well, that's it, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. This is probably going to be one of my favorite episodes of all time. I've pre-recorded so many and bumped this one up because Katie is just such a light, and I think that what she said today and what we chatted about will really set the stage for the rest of the podcast episodes to come throughout the years. I hope you all have a wonderful week.